Hey ghosties, thank you for listening to my first ever podcast. I'm excited you are here and I look forward to creating many more episodes to come. My goal for this season 1, is to cover hauntings, ghost stories, and generally unsolved true crimes that have that kind of paranormal element to them. If you have any hauntings you want me to cover, let me know. All right, let's get on with the show. Welcome to Whispers Estates, located in Mitchell, Indiana, a small farming town of approximately 4,261 residents, according to the 2019 census. It is also said to be the 4th most terrifying place, according to the Travel Channel, and boasts that its name comes from the reoccurring phenomenon of hearing whispers in your ear when no one is there. Whispers is a grand home even by today's standards. With 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and original hardwood floors, the uniquely beautiful 3,700 square foot Victorian home was built around 1894. According to the first story, it was built by Dr. John and Jessie Gibbons. Story 2 claims that the home was built by Dr. George and Sarah White. So we're going to go ahead and skip ahead to 1899 or 1901. Stories pretty much both reference those dates, but it's not quite concrete on which date is the actual one. So 1899 or 1901, Dr. John and Jessie first moved into the home as the original owners, or by accounts of the second story, Dr. John and Jessie Gibbons would then purchase the home from the Whites. Now, being a realtor and being familiar with building practices, you can build a home in as little as 4 months by today's standards. But it can also take you several years, even by today's standards. So it wouldn't be unheard of for a home of that size and in that time period to take that long to complete. But I digress. Either way, at this point, Dr. John and Jessie are living in the house. Dr. John was a well-known and highly accredited physician who would see patients within his office on the first floor of the estate. The Gibbons were known around town to be very open-hearted and warm individuals. Both storylines explain that the doctor and his wife had adopted 3 daughters. The temperament of those 3 daughters varies, however, depending on the story. The first story states that they were simply abandoned or neglected children, possibly those of deceased prior patients. Second story states that the children were mischievous troublemakers. Storyline 1 tells us that of those 3 daughters, one daughter, Rachel, aged 10, is rumored to have been sneaking around the presents on or around Christmas when she accidentally knocked over an open flame. I'm presuming a candle. And the parlor was quickly engulfed in flames. It was put out fairly quickly, but not before Rachel suffered extreme burns and would later pass in an upstairs bedroom within 48 hours of the fire. The second version of the story states that the doctor and Jessie took in troubled children, and specifically that Rachel actually purposefully started that fire and would later pass in an upstairs bedroom within 48 hours of the fire. Not long after Rachel's death, the Gibbons suffered the loss of another child, 10-month-old Elizabeth, who died an unusual death on the 2nd floor of the home. All accounts state that the cause remains unknown. There are conflicting reports, though, on where the death occurred. Some debate that it was in the nursery, others say it was the master bedroom. But within 2 weeks of Elizabeth's death, story 1 tells us that Jessie would become very ill with double pneumonia and pass away in the same room as Elizabeth. Our second story states that their 3rd daughter was named Jessie White, and she would die of pneumonia in the same room as that 10-month-old baby, Elizabeth. So again, the conflicting story there is, by this point, we have 2 of the 3 daughters and the wife of the doctor have passed away in story 1. Story 2 tells us that at this point, all 3 of those adopted daughters have passed. And that's about all we know about the family from that point on. We don't really hear anything more about the doctor's wife or the other children. However, I guess technically if we had heard more about the doctor, his wife, and the children, then we would be able to know if story 1 or story 2 was correct, right? Because if we knew that the daughters were still alive, or 2 of them and the wife were still alive, then that would answer a lot of questions. But anyways, so moving forward, I don't really find a whole lot of really anything else. There's a very little information about Dr. John and his cause of death. All that's really said is that he would continue to practice from his home in the first floor office for the next 26 plus years and would die of pneumonia in his first floor master bedroom. Then we skip ahead in time to the 1950s or 60s, where it said that a gentleman was rumored to have died of unknown causes in an upstairs bedroom. There is speculation that the death occurred in the same room as the 2 daughters and the wife from story 1, or the 3 daughters from story 2, respectively. I've also heard somebody else say that he actually died in a servant's room, which of course would not have been where the daughters and the wife would have passed. Then not long after that event, a young boy would die from falling down the front staircase of the home. So then again, after sitting vacant for many years, the property would be purchased in the early 2000s with the intention of making the home a bed and breakfast. Renovations on the home would begin and take us through about 2006. But almost immediately after renovations began, the workers and owners would begin reporting strange activity occurring within the home. It started with lights flickering on and off. Footsteps would be heard on the second floor when no one was there. The activity was said to escalate even quicker, and by this point, guests were hearing disembodied voices resembling whispers in their ears. This was when the moniker Whisper Estates would be coined. Now, the future success of the bed and breakfast is not fully known, as it was said to have been closed soon after it was opened because of many accounts of unexplained paranormal activity. From my understanding, the home would then be reopened back up for paranormal tours. Guests, mediums, psychics, and more would eventually tour the home and make the following claims. Women reported sensations of being touched or grabbed within the home. Specifically, they say, by Dr. John. I think he may have also whispered in their ears. In the room where Elizabeth and Jesse passed, you can often smell fresh baby powder and the faint sound of a baby crying. There are reportedly 4 graves in the backyard. However, psychics brought to the property claim there is also the existence of a pit grave, which contains amputated limbs, internal organs, aborted fetuses, etc. Another report of a portal or vortex that is said to run up through the house from the front parlor and into the 3rd floor attic. There is a bedroom in the 3rd floor, and it's said to be the heart of the house. Guests who have been brave enough to sleep in the 3rd floor bedroom reported horrible nightmares and often heard the doorknob jiggling as if someone was trying to get into the room. Visitors have reported seeing a shadow figure throughout the home, but is most commonly found in Dr. John's old office. The shadow is known as Big Black and is not of this world, according to psychics. Guests have experienced earthquake-like tremors in the doctor's bathroom, which is also said to be where he performed his surgeries. Other reports include beds and couches shaking, solid, heavy wooden doors slamming, a myriad of different smells ranging from pleasant, like that of a newborn baby, to the rancid smell of dirty medical bandages, rancid meat and cabbage, and tobacco and cigars. Many EVPs, or electronic voice phenomenon, have reportedly been captured over the years. The home is also said to contain the original parlor doors from the fire that took Rachel's life, with the burn marks to prove it. The story, or I guess I should say the stories of Whispers Estates in Mitchell, Indiana. Now it's up to you to decide if you believe it or if it's just hocus pocus. According to both the website, whispersestate.com, and the Facebook page at whispers.estate.page, they're still open and booking small to large groups. It is important to note that paranormal experiences are often subjective, and there are usually perfectly reasonable explanations for what's actually going on, but sometimes there aren't. Until next time, I'm your host, Brandy, and you've been listening to Ghosted.